I wanted to start off with what I was reading about, and you explained it to me very well. Can you tell me what happened with Red Lobster?
So Red Lobster, if you have seen The Sopranos, and you remember when Tony has that friend
Yeah.
who keeps sniffing around his poker game.
Terminator 2, dude.
Yeah. So Tony Soprano's got a poker game, and he's got a friend like from school who's sniffing around his poker games. And he's like, man, you don't want to get involved in this because he's a straight guy.
Yeah.
He's not in the game. He's a straight guy. He owns a sporting goods store. This guy basically makes his way into one of Tony's poker games.
High stakes game.
Very high stakes game. Tony says, I'm good for it.
Ugh.
Borrows a bunch of money from them and loses it. And then Tony does what the mob does.
Yeah, he's a mobster.
And that's one of the best episodes of television ever.
Yes.
Because Tony, who you have complicated feelings about as the viewer, is like, this is what I do. I am like an animal, and now I have to eat you because this is what I do.
And he was like, stay out of my cage.
Yes.
Please don't come into this cage.
Yes.
And
because what happens next is out of my control.
Yeah, because he is a force of nature. He has to do these things.
Yes. That's an aside.
Yes.
Basically, what Tony does to his friend's sporting goods store, this is what the mob does. They basically, you get in debt to the mob, you have a business. Now the mob owns your business because you can't pay back your debts.
Mm-hmm.
Then the mob takes out a bunch of credit lines for your business. They order a bunch of shit that your business is supposed to sell, and then they steal it and sell it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they run your business into the ground while enriching themselves as the new owner of the business. Yeah. That's exactly what private equity and these hedge funds did to Red Lobster. It's exactly the same thing. It's mob tactics 100%.
Yeah.
So what they did was hedge fund, I think they keep saying it's a hedge fund, but it's probably some kind of private equity thing because private equity is going to be the thing that destroys America.
I can't believe any of this
I keep
is legal.
railing against it because it is the thing that's making your life worse.
Yeah.
It is corporations, or it's these big money firms buying corporations or businesses that look like they could be successful, right? They help them become successful, and then they do what Tony Soprano does. They basically put it into bankruptcy by over-leveraging things, cutting all the quality out as much as possible, as much as they can calculate people will tolerate.
Yeah.
Right? So hedge fund buys Red Lobster. Then, now that they own Red Lobster, they own the land that Red Lobster is on. So they then say to the Red Lobster chains, right? They say, great, you used to own this land, right? Now you're going to pay triple the market rate for rent here.
Wow.
So then we looked it up. Red Lobsters are not franchises.
They're franchised only in airports and internationally.
Right. We're talking about the brick and mortar Red Lobsters. So now that this hedge fund or private equity firm or whatever owns Red Lobster, they own the land, they say to the stores now, okay, now we pay rent because we're charging rent. This is exactly mob tactics. It's crazy. So then the Red Lobsters are like, shit, well, now we're losing money on this rent. We need to start cutting costs and making things shittier and shittier, which is happening to every single thing in America all the time. That's how American capitalism works.
That's why our lives are so bad. That's why the food isn't good and nobody cares about each other.
So then this is how they did the shrimp thing, because what the media tried to spin this Red Lobster bankruptcy
we'll get into the media spin.
So basically then Red Lobster partners with this Thai shrimp company that has shitty shrimp, like lower grade shrimp
than they could get away with or sell in the grocery.
The lowest grade shrimp they can get away with.
Yeah.
They then start paying above market rate for the shrimp for this other company that now this hedge fund owns a piece of or whatever.
Because the mob owns different businesses.
Right.
It's not about this business. It's about enriching the mob.
So now Red Lobster's buying this shrimp. They do this unlimited shrimp thing because it's not about selling you, the customer, the shrimp at Red Lobster. It's about the corporation of Red Lobster getting a lot of shrimp.
Yeah.
Because they're purposefully driving Red Lobster into bankruptcy.
This is shrimp fraud.
It's shrimp fraud.
Yeah.
It's exactly shrimp fraud.
Yeah.
And everything is so crazy right now. But yeah. So that was the hustle. The hustle wasn't, hey, we're Red Lobster. We make shrimp dishes that you eat. It is, hey, we are a hedge fund. We have bought this shrimp slinging establishment.
Yeah.
That we will put deeply into debt because they're just going to buy shrimp from this other thing that we make money from for more than they should. And then once this is a just hollow shell of a business, we'll just declare bankruptcy. And we, the owners, will make millions of dollars.
Yeah, but if you're a manager working at Red Lobster, you're screwed.
Yes. Now your store's out of business, and if you were a waiter at Red Lobster used to be, I was a waiter for a long time. Red Lobster was a good waiter job.
Really?
Yes.
When was this?
I remember probably, when was I doing my waitering? I guess 2007 to 2009.
Yeah, because you used to hold a bunch of jobs at once.
Yeah.
We'll go into that later. But I had heard about the Red Lobster bankruptcy because Twitter has just become a Nazi breeding ground.
Dude, Twitter's
Twitter's
crazy.
Insane now.
I don't know if you guys have the same Twitter that I have, but it's getting weird.
It's not the who you're following, it's the suggestions for you, which means the Twitter algorithm is pushing Nazi content on everybody. I ask everybody about this, and they're pushing all this Nazi stuff because when I go to who I'm following, there's none of that Nazi stuff. They're actually pushing it.
That's crazy.
So it's awful. So I'm reading all these things about how black people, the black community, had bankrupted Red Lobster. Like, how dare you do such a thing?
So to be fair to the racists on Twitter, which is not a good thing to say.
Yeah, like how do you start a sentence like that? I'll listen.
So what I was seeing was these videos of like black families going into Red Lobster and clearly only ordering the one unlimited shrimp dish, and then everybody at the table eating all the shrimp, and then they would be like, "Oh, the manager's like looking over at us because she's racist," but it's because you're not supposed to do that. But
yeah,
anyway.
and they put this video out there like this family bankrupted Red Lobster.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
No, and then there's this whole narrative goes around it like this is what they do.
Right.
They come into Red Lobster, they're scheming.
Like when I was a kid, I wouldn't have done that. Like
yeah,
that same
everybody
thing.
does that. If you're in high school, you're doing that.
Of course, everybody does that.
Yeah, and I don't think it was just black people. So that was the narrative. There was so many more things that were coming out. TikTok videos of I'm a waitress at Red Lobster, and they're always doing this. And it's like, so what?
Yeah.
People go to the all-you-can-eat buffet with Ziploc baggies.
Yeah, this is
whatever.
It is such a perfect microcosm of how they do everything. How the big
who is they?
I gotta
it's
stop.
So conspiratorial, but I get it.
Yeah, you can't look at stuff like this and not say they. Because what they have done is purposefully bankrupt Red Lobster and then turned around and said, it's an entire race of people. Y'all should fight about that. Instead of us going
Red
like, wait a
Lobster
minute. Somehow it is legal for everything you just did. All these little like subholding fucking private equity tricks that you did.
Yeah.
That's somehow legal. And they're like, don't worry about that. Black people are eating too much shrimp at Red Lobster.
Like, how many shrimp would you have to eat to bankrupt this billion-dollar business? And then people were like, but why didn't they stop the promotion? Because it's peanuts.
It's not about selling you shrimp.
Yeah.
The goal was always to bankrupt Red Lobster.
Yeah.
It was never not going to go bankrupt. That was the play.
Yeah, it's not a mom and pop store. At this point, it's making billionaires more money.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who have never set foot in a Red Lobster, have never cooked a thing. They've probably never done a real day of work in their lives.
No.
It's all finance work.
Finance people.
Yeah.
And this is something that we talk about a lot in the house.
In the house.
This is in the house talk a little bit. That we will now share. But no, it's the biggest drain on the American worker or the American like
psyche,
mind, our mind power.
Yeah.
Where it used to be that our brightest minds would go across STEM, would go into engineering,
politics,
would go into politics sometimes.
Yeah.
All of our greatest minds are going into finance.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's all they're doing. And they're doing it so they can get rich doing like this.
Well, because that's what we value is money. So you have to make a lot of money. If you don't make a lot of money, like there's not a lot of money in STEM.
Right. No, there's not.
There just isn't. Researchers, my sister's a researcher. They don't make a lot of money.
No.
Physicists don't make a lot of money. They make maybe 70, 80 a year.
Yeah.
Forever.
Right.
They might max out at 100, max. They're living a middle class life and not
Yes.
even a great one. They can't even send their kids to college anymore.
Right.
So those are actually, and we watched a video on it, the highest IQ people in the country are not the richest people in the country.
No.
Because the highest IQ people did go into STEM. They're just like, I can math so good. Like the highest IQ people are going into research and they're going into high prestige things.
Right.
Because they understand money isn't everything. Now the next level is where you're getting these people from.
Right.
And these people should probably be the people that are helping push this country forward, maintain our civic structure.
Right, because they're smart and they can get done.
Yeah, they're smart and capable.
All of those people that a great society needs to be furthering the society.
Yeah.
are in finance, furthering themselves. They're in private equity,
in finance.
and finance.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes.
Ramaswamy. He's one of them.
And if you think I'm crazy about being like my big target now is we all have to get behind doing something about private finance or private equity. Because I used to work at Panera. I've had like a million jobs, but I worked at Panera, right? I worked at the first Panera in New York, I think. It was in Syracuse.
Okay.
It was a great plate. I loved Panera. When Panera first started, we made bread twice a day. We made 20 different kinds of bread, I want to say. Maybe 15.
They were artisans.
Yes, there was actual artisan breads. We had like an entire bakery team that would come in and bake the bread on site. We had so much... we had so many different breads, and they'd change it up all the time, and it was great. It was a really good place. And now if you go to a Panera, all of the bread is made off-site in one big factory and then shipped to... Because private equity saw what Panera's potential was, bought it, spread it by, doing what Panera was trying to do well, spread it around, got all over the country, and then they said, okay, now that we're a name, right? Now that everybody knows Panera, now we suck all the everything that made it good, we suck it out.
Yeah. And
we'll see what they'll tolerate. So if you go to a Panera now, it's absolute garbage.
They'll tolerate it, though.
Yeah.
They will tolerate it. And this is similar to what they did to Sbarro's, the Italian restaurant. Sbarro's, sorry.
We should try to find that YouTube video that we watched about Sbarro, because it's exactly
the exact same thing. And two things on this is, one, that the people will tolerate a lot. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me this when they were opening a restaurant about Americans, and they basically said Americans don't know anything about taste. They can't taste any food. They judge if a restaurant or food is nice based on their surroundings, like how the lighting is, how it looks. They can only understand brand and branding. They can't understand food.
Right.
And which, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense with the state that we're in and how heavy people are and what they're willing to eat.
Right.
So my opinions of Americans' food culture is just... absolute bottom.
And even outside of the food, though, the Panera that I worked at, it felt like a bookstore. It was like, it had like little areas that you'd sit in, and like it was nice. It felt nice to be in there. You felt kind of private, but whatever. We've visited that Panera since. It's no longer in that building. They moved it to the building next door that they built for it, and it feels like a Chipotle.
Everything's a Chipotle.
Right, now everything is Chipotle. Yeah. So it's got the one big counter in the front and a bunch of open seating and a big open, like a cafeteria. Yeah,
it looks like a McDonald's. It's all the fast foodification of things. Well, here's the second point I was going to make, is that the craftsmanship is what's lacking. We generally, as the general public, don't appreciate craftsmanship and being really good at your job.
Right.
Like being really good at an art form. And the same things that apply to painting and writing also apply to making bread, making foods, making shoes, making clothing. We don't appreciate this anymore. Making clothing is a lost art that our grandmothers used to do. Like they would get patterns out and they would draft them, they would craft them, they'd fit it to their bodies. Like this is a real art that people do. Nobody knows about craftsmanship anymore.
Right.
Except maybe the top 1% of the people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with like why, like now it used to be that either you owned a bakery or you worked for somebody who owned a bakery and somebody really gave a shit.
Yeah. You had a trade. Right. You had a proper trade.
Now
you were a baker.
Now you're working at the supermarket bakery where you took the job because it paid an extra 20 cents an hour, and the person making the bread
Doesn't
They
give a
work
shit.
for a big faceless corporation. I get
Yeah.
it. I wouldn't have any pride in fucking making Ralph's bread, I guess.
Yeah, but then you could still give me the bread. I mean, it's right there.
I know.
I've
Go
already.
back to last week's episode. Maya made a scene in a Ralph's.
I didn't make a scene.
Little
I kept. No, I didn't. I spoke sternly. I did not raise my voice.
So basically, what all the people who are in the financial institutions in America are straight up mobsters.
Mm-hmm.
This is Tony Soprano tactics. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, what they did to Red Lobster. And then, I don't know who they is. It's the nameless algorithm. Tried to blame it on black people and make people more racist towards black people. I'm sure black people made scenes in Red Lobsters.
Yep.
I'm sure they made it difficult for many a waiter in Red Lobsters, as any group of people are going to make it difficult. It doesn't mean that they bankrupted Red Lobster. They did not eat that much shrimp.
It's 2008 housing market all over again.
So we're not going to go into it right now. We can have a whole episode where we revisit the financial crisis, but nobody got prosecuted for that.
No.
So basically that was like a green light to finance people to just, you do whatever you want to do.
This is how it works in America now.
Yeah, but Tony Soprano, they got a RICO case on him.
Yep.
Because he can't hire the cops afterwards.
Right.
So these other companies can hire, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's the SEC, they can then hire the people at the government jobs afterwards for an obscene salary.
Right.
But Tony Soprano and the mobsters, they can't do that.